Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning.
A very good morning to all of you, my dear children. A very good morning to all of you, my dear children. In today's session, let us revise on the topic that is verb tenses. Okay, so we already know what is a verb is. What is a verb, my dear children? Come on, tell me, what is a verb? All of you mute your audios. First of all of you mute your audios. Please do it. I could hear unnecessary noise from here and there. All of you, please do mute your audios. Yes. Okay, come on, tell me, what is a verb? Esther, come on, tell me.
Ma'am,
What is a verb?
it's an action verb.
Yes, verb is an action word. We can call verb as also a doing word. Very good, Esther. So verb is an action word. The actions that we do are called verbs. Verb, is it clear to all of you? Yes, actions that we do are called verbs. Okay, so verb tells us what someone or something does. What does it tell us? When you look at the sentence, you can identify the verb in the sentence. So the verb tells us what someone or something does. So that is how we identify the verb in a sentence. Is that clear to all of you? Okay, so verb, we know it is a doing word or an action word. We know that it is a word that is what someone does or something does. Okay, so that is how we identify the verb in a sentence. Now, a verb can also tell us the time of the action. Okay, it can also tell us when the action takes place. So that is how the tenses come into it. I've already told you. Tenses tells us the time. When you look at the verb, you can know it, you can identify the verb, whether the verb is in the present tense or in the past tense or in the future tense. Okay, now you are able to identify, now we are not only able to identify the verb in a sentence, you could also say that whether the verb is in the present tense, past tense or future tense by looking at the verb. Is that clear to all of you? Yes? Yes, my dear children, are you able to identify it?
Yes.
Yes? Yes. Now let's move on to the topic.
Yes.
Okay. All of you, please do keep your workbook open to page number 16. All of you, please do keep your workbook open to page number 16. Okay. Are you all ready? Yes. So we are on the topic, worksheet 10, verb tenses. Keep your book open. Take your pencils also, just keep it ready, and also your rough book if you have it there. So I've told you, the tenses of the verb tells us the time when the person did something or when an event occurred. It tells us the time. Tenses of the verb tells us the time when a person did something, when that person did an action, when did he do it? Is it today, or has he done yesterday, or whether he's going to do tomorrow? So the tenses of the verb tells us the time when the person did something or when an event occurred. Event in the sense your birthdays. We are celebrating many events. Okay, when the event occurred. So the tenses tells us the time of the action. Okay, so in English that there are, okay, so the verb tenses depend on the action. When the action takes place, it tells us the time. Okay, so in English that there are three main tenses. Okay, so they are the present tense, the past tense, and the future tense. Yes, so in English there are three main tenses. How many are there, my dear children? Come on, tell me.
Three main tenses.
Yes, there are three main tenses. Okay. Okay. So the first one is called as the present tense. Okay. Present tense indicate an action that is happening now. It tells us an action that is happening now. Is that clear? Present tense indicate an action that is happening now. Now, what is going on? The class is going on. Okay, you're listening to the class. It tells us, and yes, that is the present tense. Clear to all of you? Yes. When you look at the verb, yes, children, please mute your audios.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes, now listen. You can see this example here. We cook for dinner every day. In this sentence, the verb is in the present tense. Before we were able to identify only the verb in the sentence. Now we could identify the verb and we could also say which tense it is. So cook, the verb is in the present tense. Is that clear? The verb is in the present tense because it is a base form of the verb, cook. Okay, so we cook for dinner every day. It is in the present tense. Now let's move on to the next form of verb, which is called as the past tense. Okay, past tense indicate an action which has already done or already happened. Clear? The action is completed. So past tense indicate an action that has already happened. Clear? An action that has already happened. Happened means done. Clear? So when you look at the verb, look at the verb here. We cooked for dinner yesterday. Now we are able to identify the verb and also we can know that the verb is in the past tense form. Why? Because ed or d, when we add d or ed to the verb, it tells us that the verb is in the past tense form. Clear to all of you?
Yes.
But I've told you one thing, exceptional rule I told you, not all the words follow this rule because they're in verbs as such, we can call them as regular verbs and irregular verbs. So for regular verbs as such, we can see the word that whether the words ends with d or ed, we can say that the verb is in the past tense form. For time being, let us know that. Irregular verbs, the list is coming there, then I'll teach you that. Okay, now the next form is called as the future tense. The third form of the tense is called as the future tense. Okay, future tense indicate an action that is going to happen. Okay, so by looking at the verb, we'll know it. We will cook for dinner tomorrow. Okay, so will cook. So will, a word is being added before the verb. Can you see this? So this is the future tense form of the verb. Now by looking at the verb, we know that which tense it is now. It is in the future tense. We will cook for dinner tomorrow. So will cook, that is the future tense form of the verb. Okay, so will is being added before the verb cook. Cook is the base form, that is the present tense. To the present tense, we add will before the verb. So I hope the three tenses are very clear to all of you.
Yes.
Okay, so the present tense indicate an action that is happening now. Past tense indicate that has already happened. Okay, gone. And the future tense, which is going to happen. Okay, so by looking at the verb cook, the different forms, a verb can be written in different forms. Cook, cooked, will cook. Cook is in the present tense form. Cooked, past tense, and will cook is in the future tense. Clear?
Yes.
Clear? Okay. Now let's move on to the table. Yes. All of you, please have a look at it. This is a table which is given in page number 16. Okay. So we have already learned certain words. We have already learned certain words. That is still 7. I've told you these verbs, all of you please listen very carefully. These verbs end with D or these verbs end with D or ED. Okay, the past tense form of these verbs end with D or ED. So we call these verbs as regular verbs. What do we call them as?
Regular words.
Regular verbs, because these verbs, the past tense form of these verbs ends with D or ED. Okay? Yes, and the future tense is the same for all the words. What we have to do? We have to add will before the base form of the verb. That is the present tense. Play, will play. Walk, will walk. Study, will study. Talk, will talk. Pull, will pull. Jump, will jump. Dance, will dance. Clear to all of you?
Yes.
Okay, now let's move on to the next set of words. This we already know it. Okay, now we are moving on to the next set of words from 8 to 15. These verbs, children, you can see this. These verbs doesn't end with, they do not. These verbs do not end with D or ED. The past tense form completely changes. Those verbs are called as irregular verbs. What do we call them?
Unregular.
Sorry, irregular. Okay, irregular. This is regular. Those are regular. These are irregular. Okay, irregular verbs, because these verbs, they do not end with D or ED. The past tense form completely changes, but the future tense form is the same. But the first one, write, wrote, it is will write. Okay, children, if there is an error showing in your book, please make the necessary correction. Why means my book is a previous one. I think so. If you've got the good new copy, then it's okay. I think so. There's no error in it. But if you've got the previous copy, there is an error in it. Okay, so it is will write. Okay, so all the rest of the words here, will sing, will drink, will buy, will think, will go, will drive, and will take. All these are the words. These are the will form. The future tense form is the same as you write it. There is no other difference. But the past tense form completely changes. So those verbs are called as irregular verbs. Okay. Now what are we going to do is that I wanted all of you to take your rough book. Let us learn and write these words so that we'll be familiar with these words. We have to learn the past tense form by heart. Okay, so when you look at the sentence, you should be able to identify which, at least now in grade 3, we should be able to identify whether the verb is in the present tense form, past tense form, or in the future tense form. That's it. Okay, sentences, we'll move on to it later. Okay, as we go ahead. Now here. Now, I request all of you to please do take your rough book. Please do take your rough book and also your pencil with you. And let's write these irregular verbs down.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, now I'm moving on to, yes, my dear. Are you all ready?
Yes.
Yes, if you're ready, let's start. Now we are moving on to the first word. Let's write once. Okay? I'm not insisting you to copy down many a time. Write once.
Okay,
So that we'll be thorough with these words. Okay? Write.
Okay.
What's the past tense form of write? It is wrote. Yes, wrote. The past tense form of it is wrote, and the future tense form of it is add will before the base form of the verb. Will, and right there, will write. Okay? Yes. So this is how you have to write it.
Yeah,
Okay, carry on writing.
ma'am, how many times?
Only once. I don't want you to write many a times. Now during the session, at least write once. That's enough. If you have finished, it's okay. Please do sit. No, children, let us finish word by word. I will write it on the board for you.
Ma'am, I have a network issue. That's
Then
why
it's okay. Okay, okay.
Ma'am, my work is done.
That is okay, my dear. Now let's move on to the second word, sing. S-I-N-G, sing. Okay, the past tense form of sing, it is sang. S-A-N-G, sang. Okay, and the future tense is add will before the base form of the verb. Will, sing. Yes, will sing.
Done.
Yes, I'm going to mute you all. Now let's move on to the third word, that is drink. The spelling of drink it is. I wanted all of you to write these words into your rough book. Drink. The past tense it is drank. D-R-A-N-K. Drank. And the future tense is add will before the base form of the verb. That is will, drink. Understand and you write, my dear children. Please don't just write blindly. Only then you will learn. Okay, now let's move on to the next. That is, we are finished with drink. Now let's move on to the next word, that is buy. B-U-Y, buy. I hope all of you are writing. Yes, buy. The past tense of buy is bought. B-O-U-G-H-T. Okay, and the future tense form of it is you have to add will before the base form of the verb. So will, buy. Okay, will, buy. So the past tense form, it at least it starts with the same letter, but we have to know the past tense form well. Write, wrote. Okay, sing, sang. Only the vowel changes here. Drink, drank. Buy, bought. Then entirely the word changes. Are all of your writing finished? Okay, now let's move on to the next word. Yes. Now let's move on to the next word, my dear. By is over. Now let's move on to think. Okay, T-H-I-N-K, think. The past tense form of think it is thought. T-H-O-U-G-H-T, thought. And the future tense form is at will before the base form of the verb. So it is will think, T-H-I-N-K, think. Is that clear to all of you?
Yes. Finish. Finish, ma'am.
Yes.
Finish.
Yes.
Finish. Finish, ma'am. Finish. Finish, ma'am.
Okay. Now let's move on to the next word, that is go. Here, go. Write the next word now. Go.
Went.
Yes. So here, the past tense form completely changes. Okay, go, it is went. Okay, go, went. And the future tense form of it is will go. Will go. Okay.
Google.
Yes. Yes. Please don't talk. Please don't talk.
Ma'am, I all finished.
Yes.
Ma'am, I also
Now let's move on to the next word, my dear. We have finished with go. Now let's move on to the next word. It is drive. I hope all of you are writing. Drive. Past tense of it is drove. D-R-O-V-E. Only the vowel changes. Okay, drove. And it is will drive. Okay, will drive. So we have to learn this table by heart. Okay.
finished.
Yes, finished. Okay. Yeah, finished is okay.
I'm finished. I'm finished.
Okay, now let's move on to the last word. I wanted everyone to complete your work, not one or two. I wanted all of you to write it in your off book. Only then we will learn. Yes, only then we can learn this. We have to learn this. Why means the next exercise we have to, it's an exercise for us to do it. I'm stopping till here, page number 16. It will be taken later, okay? After the examinations. Now let's move on to the last word, that is take. What's the past tense of take? It is took. It is took, T-O-O-K, took. And the future tense, it is will take. Will take. Is that clear to all of you? Yes. Have all of you finished?
Yes. Yes.
One.
Yes, I'm finished. I finished my work.
Yes, have all of you finished? Yes, very good, Esther. Jessica finished? Yes, yes, Saharish. Have all of you finished? Yes, Esther, very good. Yes, Anna. Yes, Renfred. Mivan, what do you want to tell me? Is unmuted, no? Yes. Yes, Miva.
No, finished.
Is not it finished? Mivan? Yes, today is your birthday. Many happy returns of the day, my dear Mivan. Okay, have a blessed birthday, both of you. Okay, celebrate your day.
And today is my sister's birthday.
Okay. Now let's move on to, yes. Okay. Now let's okay.
It's not finished.
Now let's move on to yes. So we have finished with this. Now I want to tell you before we wind up. Now all of you please do look at the sentences. I'm not insisting on the sentences because we don't have an exercise here related to the sentences, only the words. Okay, so let us learn only the words. But here I have few examples for you. Okay, all of you, please have a look at it. They look for clues. Here we can identify the verb. Okay, so here in these sentences, children, now we are able to identify the verb and we can see that what tense it is. Now, they look for clues. Now, look is a verb here and look is in which tense form it is? The question is for everyone. Which tense form it is?
Simple tense.
Yes, it's a present tense. Okay. Verb, yes. By looking at the verb, we are able to identify which tense. Before we know only what is a verb is, we are able to identify only the verb in the tense. Now we are able to identify the verb and we could also say what tense it is. So in this exercise, we are going to identify the verb in that is the tense form, and we should be thorough with this. Okay. Now here in this second sentence, we dance together. So dance is in the present. The verb agreement and everything we'll learn later. Now let us identify the verb first and let's know what tense it is. Now look and dance is in the present tense form. Okay, fine.
Present
Now let's go on to the next. So we know the past tense. How do we form the past tense form? Normally in irregular verbs, we add D or ED. And for the irregular verbs, it doesn't end with D or ED. Those verbs are called as irregular verbs. Now all of you please have a look at it. She walked to the park. She walked to the park. Yes. Now identify the verb in it.
Walked.
What tense it is? What tense it is? Past tense. Past tense. Because the verb ends with the ed here. Is that clear? So the verb ends with ed here. So it is in the past tense. Okay. So we are just identifying it. Now all of you read the sentence.
They dances to
Their favorite song. Or identify the verb here. Dance. What tense it is? What tense it is? Past. Clear to all of you? Is that clear to all of you, my dear children? Yes. Now let's move on to the next exercise also. Here. Now read the sentence.
Slept for 9 hours.
He slept for 9 hours. Okay. Identify the verb in it.
Slept.
Slept. What tense it is? What tense it is?
Past tense.
Past tense. Now we know slept. Sleep is the present tense form and slept is the past tense form of it because in this word it is a irregular verb. So we know that the past tense form completely changes. Okay, it is a past tense form. He slept for 9 hours. So slept is the past tense form. Very good, fine. Now let's move on to the next sentence. Now come on, read this. Yes, the girl ate her dinner. Come on, identify the verb in it. What tense it is? Past tense. For all the words, we don't add ed to it. That is wrong. Okay. So eat, it is not eated. It is ate is the past tense form. Okay. So we know that ate is in the past tense form. So we know how to identify the verb. We know now what is a verb is. We know the form of it, whether it is in the present tense or in the past tense or in the future tense. Now let's move on to the next example is not there. Okay. Now here, to the future tense, what do we do? What do we do? For all the words, what do we do? We add will, that is will happen. Okay, we add will before the verb to show that the action is in the future tense form. Okay. Is that clear to all of you? Yes, for all the words, future tense form, add will before the verb. Is that clear to all of you, my dear children?
Yes.
So this chapter, I wanted all of you to learn it. The notes of the before chapter, I'll be sending it to you. Okay. Yes. All of you, please do mute it. Mute your audios, all of you, my dear children. So we have completed with the topic verb tenses. Okay, in the next chapter as such, worksheet 10. So it's an exercise, my dear children. So we have to complete it. That we'll be doing it after the examinations. Okay. So this table you should be thorough with. Okay, this is an table where you should be, where you have to learn it well. So, okay. Okay, children. So this page is very, very important. I wanted all of you to learn it well. Okay, children. So it's time for us to wind up, I believe. I hope all of you have finished. Okay. So from Monday onwards, we'll start with a revision. Okay. So revision will start from the beginning with nouns and verb. Only we have 2 chapters as such, that is noun as well as verb, till worksheet 8. Okay, worksheet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. Make sure that you have copied all the notes and the answer keys. To the answer keys, you have written all the answers. Till page number we have for the examination is for page number 13. Okay. So with this, we are going to wind up today's session, my dear children. Thank you all. Bye-bye. Thank you, my dear children.
Bye.
Bye, children. Thank you all. Bye-bye. Thank you.